interest? Seeing none, we do have an item added to the agenda. So item 2, Fred Hanna, Vice President Corporate Security. So if I can have an approval of the agenda, amended agenda. All in favor? Great. We have no presentations, so we'll move right into deputations. We have Linda Bedoin here. If you can come forward. Good morning.
Hi. Chair and members of committee, thank you for giving me this opportunity to make you aware of the urgent need to have adult children's entertainers licensed with a criminal background check. As you may have noticed, I've handed out this colorful handout, and I want to make you aware that within the last year, there have been 2 cases of a Santa and a clown convicted of sex crimes against children. July 2010, Daniel Jesselink in Barrie, Ontario, who is a Santa Claus and also was in the Santa Claus parade, was convicted of 90,000 child pornographic images and 1,200 video clips. In October of 2010, Randy Miller, who worked as a clown for 17 years, was arrested in a global kiddie porn ring. In June, he was convicted of 60,000 child pornographic images and sexual assault of a minor. In my research, there have been many cases. John Gacy, he was considered an upstanding citizen in his community. He was a businessman. He was also Pogo the Clown. He raped, tortured, and murdered 33 boys. Had there been a license, he would have been denied. He had a previous conviction of sodomy. Also, you'll notice there's other incidents where a sex offender used a costume character, registered sex offender, a face painter. He's a prolific pedophile. And also on the network Survivors Speak Out, I have the auditor from San Diego who is working with research to be the first city in the U.S. to have them licensed with background check. I have the support of my MP, Carl Seaback, and also the Youth Advisory Committee, and I have many, many petitions of many people who support this. Rex Mays is another individual I just discovered. He worked as a clown, and he murdered 2 little girls, 7 and 10 years old. They were found from the waist down with no clothing, and they were stabbed repeated times, 18 times, 20 times in the eyes. And I have to say, what would you think if that was your child? I'm going to show you some news clips of some incidents that have occurred.
Beyond the headlines, behind the trials, within the mind of a serial killer, lies the horrifying truth of what really happens.
I stabbed him in the chest 4 or 5 times. Came to the first or second stab, and all you could hear was the gargling of blood.
Serial killer John Wayne Gacy was convicted and executed by lethal injection for the rape and brutal murders of 33 boys and young men, 28 of whom he buried in the crawl space under his house. He was known as the Killer Clown for entertaining children in a clown suit and makeup.
Once they weren't the ground, they weren't my problem. There was no feeling. I don't believe I killed anybody, but yet I...
Thank you. I'm going to go to the next video.
Just the rides kids come to see at the fair. Some of their favorite Sesame Street characters make an appearance. But in the case of this familiar face, there's more than meets the eye.
This is so strange.
Little did fair director Bob Fox know the Cookie Monster handing out flyers and posing for pictures at the fair this weekend was sex offender James Lester Rogers.
The little characters went out and ran across a police officer that he knew and walked up to him. He took off his helmet and he said, hi, you remember me, don't you?
That was a big mistake. The officer immediately recognized Rogers' voice and arrested him.
They handcuffed him, and he walked into the squad car, and then they put the costume in a black bag and carried the costume. Now, that was sad to see.
But his friend...
Elmo was in the clear. At first I thought it was a joke because it was so bizarre.
It's no laughing matter for Scott County Sheriff's Detective Peter Bonnet, who says no matter his motivation, Rogers was breaking the law by working at the fair.
The chance they happen to be there working as Cookie Monster, obviously, it makes us aware that the law is there, it needs to be there.
Fox, who's been running the Mississippi Valley Fair for 16 years, says it reinforces the need for a heavy law enforcement presence.
The cops do their job. That's the good part about it. Seriously, they do a good job.
Thank you. Go to the next video. Thank you.
Good evening. Young children molested and raped for the entertainment of others. That's what investigators say they found in raids over the last 2 days in the Metro East.
News Channel 5's Casey Nolan is live with disturbing details of a statewide crackdown on child porn. Casey?
Yeah, Mikey K., the Illinois Attorney General says they are rounding up the worst of the worst when it comes to child porn. And she says the deeper this investigation goes, the more violent the pornography becomes, and the younger the victims get. We were there earlier this morning on one of these raids here in Belleville. This was the 26th raid and arrest around the state in the last year of what the AG calls serious child porn offenders. Police arrested 48-year-old Mike G. Telkamp this morning and 61-year-old Gerald Lee Semelka Sr. yesterday morning. It's part of an effort to crack down on people viewing and trading child porn over the internet. It's called Operation Glass House. The idea is that investigators want people viewing child porn to know that they have improved their investigative methods, and they say they can see who is downloading child porn. The AG says what they are finding more and more of are violent videos with young victims.
Among the worst of these videos is one of a middle-aged man in a clown costume who is repeatedly raping and assaulting a young girl approximately 6 years of age. The details of this video, quite frankly, are unspeakable.
That video has been downloaded close to 1,000 times in the past year in the state of Illinois. She also says it was found.
Sorry about the quality.
Are there any other videos?
There's one more or two more. It's coming up.
Okay.
We have a warning for parents tonight. Be careful who you hire to entertain your kids at a party, because you never know who you're going to end up with. As News 4 WOAI troubleshooter Brian Collister found out, it could be a convicted pedophile.
To help keep your kids safer, the troubleshooters recently won a fight to require the Texas Department of Public Safety to release more information about what sex offenders do for a living. When we got this new information, we found something very disturbing. You see, this San Antonio child molester has been working as a clown.
Why are you a clown? You're a sex offender.
Oh, why?
His name is Alfonso Perez, or you can call him Ponchinchin. You see, that's the clown name he uses when he entertains at children's birthday parties. Perez hands out these business cards to get parents to hire him for their events. But what he doesn't tell them is that in 1993, he was convicted of indecency with a child by sexual contact and got 10 years probation. The girl he attacked was only 10 years old.
How long have you been a clown?
Well, about 3 or 4 years. I think it's...
Have you molested any children?
No, sir. No.
We caught up with Perez in court this week because as a convicted sex offender, he's required by law to register his current employment with SAPD every year. But until just a few weeks ago, he had never told cops he was a clown, and that's illegal.
Do you think it's wrong, though, that you're around children?
No, I think it's wrong. It's wrong.
Are you still doing it?
No, not yet. No, sir, I'm stopping. hasta I know it's wrong.
Since Perez is no longer on probation and served out his time, it's not against the law for him to work in a profession that puts him in contact with children. He broke the law when he failed to register the change of employment.
Do you think that you should go to jail for being a clown when you were a child molester and not reporting that you were being a clown?
Yeah, but I'm no clown no more.
Perez will be back in court next week.
Okay,
His
thank
attorney
you.
applied for deferred.
Last one.
Live in Fullerton, where there are fears there could be other young victims. Eileen?
And about a decade's worth of clown costumes, wigs, and other clown paraphernalia now sits as evidence inside the Fullerton police station here. The suspect did work as a clown for years, giving him easy access to children. Dozens of costumes, from clown masks down to the shoes, numerous puppets, all seized as evidence from the home of Jose Jimenez, along with the truck the 41-year-old used to travel to children's parties. Seen here on YouTube.com, police say Jimenez performed as a clown for years, often holding events at his own home in Anaheim.
He goes by the name Eltin Larin, which is a Mexican cookie.
Police allege Jimenez was dressed as a clown when he kidnapped a 12-year-old girl from outside a fast food restaurant in Fullerton 9 years ago.
He took the girl to a secluded parking lot at a nearby school, raped her, and then took her to a hotel off of Harbor Boulevard, molested her again.
Police allege as Jimenez walked to the motel office, the girl escaped. Investigators collected the suspect's DNA off the victim. It went into a database, but the case went cold until Jimenez was arrested last year in Anaheim. He pleaded not guilty to striking a young relative of his.
His DNA was taken from that arrest, was put in the system, and then a few months later, we got a hit.
Police arrested Jimenez in Newport Beach this morning.
He's my neighbor. I live right here.
At his home in Anaheim, one neighbor so angry with his arrest tried to stop us from taking video of the home and said Jimenez is not capable of what he's accused of. Police, however, are concerned there may be other potential victims. Others also worry.
Very easy access to kids.
It's hard to trust anybody after that. Somebody who's dressed up in a costume, you would think, hey, it's a friendly person. It's gross.
Thank you. That ends your presentation?
Pretty much so, yes.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for being here today to present such a sad situation and bringing this forward. And we do have some speakers. So, Councillor Yanika.
Thank you. It's the second time some of us are seeing, but it's just as disgusting, isn't it? Those of us at the region that saw it wanted Linda to come here for the simple reason that I refer to staff. Not how do we stop it, let's just stop it. I mean, it's mind-boggling to me as I sit at the region that, for those of us, Councillor Starr and I sit on the Public Vehicle Authority, what it takes to get a tow truck license in this city, and that's just steel and metal, and we don't give our children the same care. It's appalling. And then it's not off on another how you can get away with it and all the technology that we have, and this thing just proliferates on the internet. It's just mind-boggling to me. But be that as it may, other than commending Linda for her courage, this amounts to giving them the keys to the candy store. I mean, it's just diabolical if you stop and think. And then you think about all the provisions we go through every day to protect our children, right down to the constituents that I have, true story, that live 2 homes away from the school but drive their kids to school, literally, 2 lots away, so they can, because I've asked, because I can see them get out, and then I pick them up. I get that. Then you hire one of these diabolical people, not thinking, and you've just let them into the chicken coop. Oh my gosh. So in the strongest possible terms, I want it referred to the city manager and to the appropriate staff and say, what can we do to ensure that these people must be licensed and receive every possible level of scrutiny? I don't know where that takes us. It may revolve federal legislation, what have you. I know Brampton's working towards it as well. But this isn't a how, this is a must. this must be done, and if we have to work with other levels of government. It's just despicable, it's diabolical. It has to be addressed, and I believe we have to do something about it. I'm sure I speak for all of us. Linda, thank you once again.
Thank you. Martin, did you want to?
Through you, Madam Chair. I think the most appropriate thing would be just to refer to staff. We will do a full report and come back with all of the information that I think that Council wants to make a decision on this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carlson.
Thanks very much, Madam Chair. I took the opportunity to speak to my right across the street neighbors who are by profession husband-wife clowns. So I thought, well, I was a little nervous at first to go over and put the report in their mailbox because I didn't think that, I wasn't making a negative inference, but they came right over right away and sort of unloaded the whole downside of the it's not just clown, the child entertainment business. And kind of the long and the short of it was that as local professionals, they're not licensed because we don't require them, but they are police checked and are routinely asked to present their certificate or their report. And the city, by the way, when we hire children's entertainers, that's the first thing they ask for, apparently. And the Bread and Honey Festival, all the sort of well-organized events require that right up front. But she said the problem, George, is we're all in agreement with licensing and all this stuff, but the bulk of the trouble within the clown industry is not caused by professional people, but rather anybody that buys, rents, or borrows an outfit and then carries on, and unsuspecting parents, unsuspecting small groups, Christmas parties. These are the groups that really aren't regular users of the child entertainment industry. So those are the ones you're going to have to try to find some way to get to. That may very well involve, this is me speaking now, some federal legislation that says you shall not, and then make it an offense when you're caught too, because I'm not sure that every offender with a record has that on their probation or parole that you won't work in the children industry. But maybe that's a standalone law that says for every case that occurs that is an offense to be a child entertainer of any sort, costume or otherwise. But that was kind of brought it to light to me, and I appreciate your being here. Obviously, it's very personal for you. And for the victims that you know of, but when I talk to people in the industry, just as concerned and are well aware of these situations. So thanks once again for coming.
You're welcome. May I answer something? I was in a clown alley before, and I got to know some people in it. And one of them disclosed something that they do for a living. They're clowning, they're very professional. However, they were skeptical about this because they were worried about if they'd get a license.
Well, I'll just leave it at that. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Thanks.
Well, thank you. Councillor Sato.
Thank you. Well, I guess if someone's worried that they may not get a license, then they probably shouldn't have the license in the first place. But Linda, I want to thank you for being here today. And as my colleagues have just said, I mean, this is not can we do something, but how fast can we do something? As Councillor Unica said, and I was thinking the same thing, Nando, that, we license people to tow cars or drive taxis, and all of the even to sell hot dogs and everything else, and yet we don't license those that are going out working with children, directly with children, although our volunteers have to get a police check. So anyone that is volunteering with the city, providing their time, especially if they're going to be working with young people, such as our volunteers on Traffic Safety Council that are out at the schools, etc. I mean, they go through a fairly rigorous police check. So we are very cautious with the staff or the individuals that we bring to work with our citizens in the city. But working with, I was many years on the Internet Safety Committee with Peel Regional Police, and some of the videos that you showed was some of the information, particularly as it related to the internet pornography, that we were getting every month at our committee meetings. And our police are working so hard to, we have the ICE unit that is specifically dealing with that, and it's been very successful in apprehending those. So, in a way of supporting what we are doing at the police level, and Councillor Dale can certainly attest to that, he sits on the Police Services Board, that we need to work together to make sure that what we're doing is supporting each other. And we had our Safe City meeting last night, and I'm not sure if you've spoken to Teresa Burgess-Ogilvie at Safe City, Mississauga, but I think that's another avenue that we need to pursue as well as an educational, from the educational perspective. And our Children and Youth Initiative at the Region of Peel, Councillor Mahoney and I have a meeting tomorrow morning with our Youth Violence Prevention Initiative. And the Children and Youth Initiative is growing in the Region of Peel. So there are those mechanisms and organizations that can get the word out. And the licensing is one thing, but it's the educating as well. As Councillor Carlson said, you know, it's the person that can just go out and grab a clown suit and go door to door, hand out business cards and get hired, and the parents are doing it unknowingly because they don't know. If they don't know that the person has to be able to show a license, then it's not really going to matter whether they have a license, whether we're licensing or not. So the education is a huge, huge component, and we have the means to do that. You know, even before we do licensing, we have the means to get that information out to the parents, to at least have them look, you know, check with the company, that if they're hiring through a company, to make sure that the person that has been hired, that is coming out, has had a police check, and, you know, do all of those things. And I think parents need to be aware, as Nando said, you know, they get in the car and they drive the kids a couple of houses down to school because they're afraid of the children being alone on the street. So this is just another awareness that I think we need to bring forward. So I'm very supportive of us proceeding towards the licensing. I look forward to the report coming forward, but let's not stop there. Let's take a look at the getting the information out, the education out, as you're doing today. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. Mayor McCallion.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, the Peel Regional Police in camera at the region, you remember, told us about this horrible situation, a menace, not just in Canada, but throughout the world, which is just so dreadful. Secondly, I agree with Councillor Sado. Licensing is one. I think education is, we have to prepare the citizens that when they're hiring people to entertain their children at birthday parties, etc., that they should be checking carefully as to who they hire for the entertaining. So licensing is one way, but it's not the complete answer. It's like us passing a bylaw. If we don't enforce it and conduct a major educational program, then it really doesn't go very far. I think there is, as I assume, Councillor Carlson, that the clown, your neighbour is a member of the Clown Association. I assume that they clearly qualify everybody that serves as a clown, which I think is wonderful, because I think I met who you're speaking to at the Bread and Honey Festival, etc., which is wonderful that there is an organization now which gives some confidence to the people. I assume, Madam City Manager, that any people that we hire goes through a very thorough process.
I'd like to respond to that. Randy Miller, the clown that was convicted of the child porn and sexual assault of a minor, he was in a clown organization. They don't screen their members.
Pardon?
They don't screen their members, not necessarily so.
In other words, what do we do as a city in regard to engaging people for entertainment at our festivals? What process do we go through? I'd like to ask the question.
Staff, Janice.
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor.
In other words, we are hiring some of these people that this young lady so ably has talked about. I don't mean some of those people, but we are hiring people at our festivals, etc. What controls do we put in place to make sure that they are researched and acceptable?
Madam Mayor, I would have to confirm. I did hear Councillor Carlson make a comment that his neighbor said when we hire, people are checked. I honestly, I didn't have any previous notice of this item, so I would have to go back and confirm.
Well,
and
if you could
do
get
that.
back to us on it, because I think we have to make sure that we're setting an example in regard to controlling the people that we engage in festivals and so forth, because I see a lot of clowns around and a lot of entertainers. So we should. Secondly, a dreadful thing, as all councillors have said, and thank you for coming, because I don't think we've given the importance to it from an educational point of view. I think we're all concerned, but sometimes we neglect to put into place a very dynamic plan to try to prevent situations from happening. And I think that's what we should be looking at, is a very dynamic plan of education to the people that are, to the citizens that innocently hire people to come and entertain, especially at family parties for children.
Thank you. Councillor Starr.
Thanks, Linda. I think presenting this for a second time, it's even worse. By hearing it again, I think it reinforces I think Councillor Uniga said, the diabolical nature of these people, and what we really have to do is control it as best we can from a, I guess, standardized set of rules and regulations, etc. And I have to tell you that many, many years ago, we had a cousin in our family that was a victim. And even to this day, now this person's in his late 50s, I guess 60s, there's still the trauma of that, what happened. And, you know, you don't realize how bad it is when it happens to a child. And I think we've got to really get a you know, all-encompassing report. And I think it's not only the clowns, Mr. Commissioner, it's all entertainment. However, and I think you know, you're going to find maybe that the report has to be expanded to include all areas that have contact with children. And I think the point was brought up. You know, all the committees we have to, even though they're only on the board of directors, they maybe have no contact with children with respect to traffic safety or what used to be the Children's Festival and whatever. We all went through checks. You never really had any contact on a day-to-day or even an infrequent basis. But I think it's a matter that there has to be a better way of doing this, and I think we have to get a handle from a legislative point of view how to do that. And I just think even the Association of Clowns and that sort of thing, as the mayor mentioned, we've got to check into how all of that works. Are they checked? I mean, probably we don't know that. And you know, then when you start to spread your parameters, then you've got, you know, what about the ice cream trucks? And what about, you know, all these other areas? I mean, I mean, think about it. And especially in a day and age where we're so highly technical with, you know, instant cameras and mini cameras, and, you know, you start to think about all of this, and you read about these situations where, you know, kids are attacked in public washrooms and that sort of thing. You know, it's not only a matter of legislation, it's education and awareness, and I think that's a great part of it. And I think the suggestion was to talk to a Safe City or whatever organizations that, you know, gear themselves towards that. We can provide maybe legislation, but then it's up to the outside world to be aware and also to control this. So certainly as one individual, I support your endeavors 100% and keep at it. And I think it's very, very important that we get rid of this, this situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tovey.
Yeah, thank you very much, Linda. This is